Did you like reading as a kid? What was your favorite series? Was it Harry Potter, Mysterious Benedict Society, The Hunger Games, Divergent? Well, for me, mine was Percy Jackson series. Percy Jackson series is a great series and it was written by Rick Riordan. CommonSense.org gives the book 4 stars and most describe it as good, lighthearted read. CommonSense.org also describes them as epic stories about gods, goddesses, and other mythological creatures. However, despite this, the movies did not do the books any justice. As may be a little bit more obvious now, today I'm going to be persuading you about the Percy Jackson movies and how the movies were really awful. Over the course of this speech, I'm going to try to persuade you with 3 reasons the movies did not do the books any justice. The first reason that the movies did not do the books any justice is that the reviews for the movies are pretty bad. The second reason being that the character descriptions don't match the characters in the book series, the way they're described. And the final reason is that the plot lines are pretty much completely different. Okay, so the first part with the reviews being not so good. Okay, now I do understand why some people would disagree with this point, because overall, if you Google it, it has a 3.0 star rating. The first movie. And although it's not that bad, however, on Google, if you look at it, it's either people gave it 1 stars or 5 stars. So pretty much you can assume that the people that gave it 5 stars probably had never read the books before. Rotten Tomatoes scores the first movie of 49%. Audiences score it at 53%. Way below average. If you read the books, you get it. You get why it's that low. A quote from the top critic: "A slab of market research in search of an actual movie." Ouch, that's gotta hurt. Okay, now on to the second movie. The rating from Rotten Tomatoes is a 42%. That's a decent drop from the 49% we saw from the previous movie. But from the audience, it was a 55% rating. A little better. I'm assuming it's because the second movie took a little bit of criticism from the first. Speaking of, my second point brings us to this. Why these movies aren't the best. The descriptions of the characters. The first movie. The absolutely first major difference that we see is that the characters were 16 instead of 12 like they're described in the books. Logan Lerman was in his 20s when he was trying to play Percy Jackson in these movies. So he was trying to play a 16-year-old, but in the books he's actually supposed to be 12. So he was about 10 years older than he was actually supposed to be. And that pretty much goes the same with all of the main characters. They were all in their 20s. They were supposed to be 12. Okay, this is one of the points I feel very, very strongly about, and that would be Annabeth's description, her hair and her eyes. Alexandra Daddario was the actress that played Annabeth in the first and the second Percy Jackson movies, and she was supposed to be blonde, curly blonde hair with stormy gray eyes. I believe that was a direct description of it. And Alexandra Daddario has straight brown hair and blue eyes, so a little bit different. And now on to the villain, or one of our villains, Luke. Luke, although he did have the whole sandy blonde hair, surfer vibes, that he pretty much got that, he was missing a scar on his cheek, which is a defining characteristic throughout the novels because that really kind of was his evil origin story. You know, that was why he did everything he did, and the movies just missed it, didn't even put it in there, but it's fine. Let's just move on to our next villain, which is Medusa. And in the book, she's described as an old Middle Eastern woman with coffee-colored skin. And you guessed it, that is not how she was in the movies. She was actually a young, probably 20s, 30s, white woman who was beautiful. So that was great. Doesn't really make any sense. In addition, with that same kind of the mythological creatures, the gods were supposed to be wearing casual clothes. Poseidon was described as wearing a Hawaiian shirt. All of the gods were described as really chill and wearing normal clothing. And instead, in the movies, they were wearing all battle gear, which was very weird. Second movie did a little better. The age, obviously the same. But blonde Annabeth, Alexandra Daddario dyed her hair. Wasn't curled. It was fine. Whatever. Yay. And then we were introduced to Clarice. Now, Clarice is supposed to be in the first movie, but we'll, get into the plot line of it later. And so her appearance, obviously, you can guess it has been altered. She's described as the height of a basketball player and a muscular body of a rugby player. You guessed it, that is not what she looked like. In the movie, she's slender, she's shorter than Percy, and she's very pretty. Going back to how she wasn't even in the first movie, let's talk about the plot line a little bit. To be honest, I could probably go on forever about all the plot differences between the movies and the books, so I'll just try to keep it mostly on the big things and ignore the details a little bit. So in the first movie, the plot's basically a disaster. None of it follows the book except for characters and how they're trying to stop a war, essentially. The plot is about finding 3 pearls throughout the movie, and so that Percy, Annabeth, and Grover can go to the underworld to save Percy's mom and leave. In the books, he actually was given the pearls like about 20 minutes into their quest, so that they completely missed the big old plot line of it, which was pretty weird. And so, also, let's move on to the next big plot hole, which is never hearing Annabeth call Percy seaweed brain, which this might seem like something little, but it is constantly brought up throughout the entire series. It's basically the base of their whole relationship. So the fact they left it out was really frustrating for us that love the books. Okay, next is the claimed by godly parents. Literally the whole point of the war was because the godly parents were ignoring their kids and not giving them the time of day. And they completely didn't even bring that up in the books, or in the movies, which was really weird. Everyone just kind of knew who their godly parent was, which is completely missing the plot of the entire series. Okay, Annabeth can hear Athena when she's doing anything, like she's leading Athena's leading Annabeth, and gave her a baseball cap of invisibility. Yeah, in the movies, she never met her mom before. None of that ever happened, so that was awesome. Okay, finally, one of the biggest plot holes, Aphrodite and Ares weren't in the movies whatsoever, and they weren't a huge part of the plot in the books. Firstly, Ares and Percy get in a fight. A god and a 12-year-old boy get in a fight, and Percy wins. And it's not in the movie. I don't even know how that was possible. And then also just the fact that Ares and Aphrodite were in love in the movie, or in the book, and the movie doesn't show it whatsoever. So that's pretty awesome. Also, Percy describes Aphrodite as looking like Annabeth at one point. If that's not showing you and leading you into it, I don't know what is. As you can tell, I could probably go on forever about the differences, but my main points stand. Reviews, they're horrible. The characters didn't match the descriptions, and the plots don't match. I hope I persuaded you into thinking these movies did not do the books any justice. But don't worry, Disney Plus is working on a show for it right now. Thanks for listening.